Alex here from the Takeover podcast, and we are finishing up the event. This is going to be our last interview of the day, but this is a really special one. This is one that Fred, one of the organizers of the event, told us we absolutely needed to get. We needed to get the story of Schlafly and Great Taste in the Midwest, because it's a long story. And I think the best person we could get that with...
Stephen Hale, Schlafly Beer, St. Louis.
Absolutely. So, Stephen, please tell us a little bit about your experience with the Great Taste of the Midwest and what this event has meant for your brewery.
Do we have a couple of hours? Because I really want to shower everybody with a bunch of accolades for why we are so happy to be here and do this event after so many years. The St. Louis Brewery opened as the St. Louis Brewery in December '91 when there were 312 breweries in this country. Come August '93, we got an invitation to this festival in an area where we don't distribute beer. At the time, we didn't even distribute beer outside the confines of the Schlafly taproom at 2100 Locust Street. But we piled in the truck, the 1990 Ford F-150 that I still drive today, every week for my wife's local food business. And we drove up here with a couple kegs of beer, and at Olin Terrace across the lake here, we set up shop with the other 25 or 30 breweries and served Schlafly beer. We were known as St. Louis in the program guides because we weren't known as Schlafly beer then. We didn't bottle or can or distribute. We would a month later start to distribute the beer. But we thought it was a great escape from the heat of St. Louis summer. Nice. And a nice treat to share beer with people not directly in our market, but a lot of people travel to Madison, and a lot of people from Madison travel to the St. Louis region. So it was a good idea to come up here and share the beer with everybody.
Well, I think that answers Fred's question, because he really wanted to know why a brewery that was never going to distribute in Madison would come to Madison. Fred is here to ask that question himself.
On cue.
But why would you guys even show up in Madison, and why would you guys keep coming for so many years? And I think it speaks a lot to the professionalism of the volunteers at the Great Taste of the Midwest and the organizers as well.
Alex, you know I'm going to give you the long answer, but I'm going to start with the short one. Hashtag LoveFest. I will elaborate on that. Since '93, when we first set up shop over there, for the last 2 years of the Great Taste on Olin Terrace, when it moved here in '95, our third year, we realized what a great location it was. Again, a nice escape from the heat of St. Louis, but the way brewers are treated when they get here. Does anyone have any Kleenex? Because I'm going to really start crying a lot here. The way brewers are treated, not being forced to do this or that or jump through hoops, except that hello, state of Wisconsin. We'll do whatever you ask.
Yeah, that's
paperwork.
That's a weird world. Absolutely.
Fred is here too. Thank goodness. The paperwork is required, but all we have to do is bring our beer, our people, set up camp, throw up our tents, put the beer on tap, and serve it to people. And again, we're one of the few breweries that do not distribute in the state of Wisconsin, and we serve our beer here on the second Saturday in August in Olin Turville Park here on the shores of beautiful Lake Monona. Sorry, I'm not a local. I thought it might be Mendota. Not a local. And you cannot beat the view. But really, it is all about the love fest that we get with the Madison Homebrewers, hashtag MHTG, Madison Homebrewers and Tasters Guild. And the way they treat and welcome us. Here's an example. A couple of years ago, the new greeting when we got to Madison became welcome home. And we had realized that
we talked about that
years.
with Fred in the opening episode to our experience here about what it means to be welcomed home into a festival.
We realized that for years before without having put those words to it. But that when they put those words to it, of course, we all started sobbing uncontrollably with joy and grief and happiness of no grief, lots of happiness of what the event has become. It's grown, of course, but they've controlled it well. And oh my God, it's not indoors. It occasionally rains. It's in a park overlooking. How much better can you get?
Yeah.
I haven't been to all the beer festivals in this country, but I put it up against all the best beer festivals in this country.
I would.
That's high praise.
Definitely would.
So, I mean, one of the beautiful things about Great Taste in the Midwest is the timing. Things just seem to work out. You end up at the right tent at the right time for the right tapping. And we just happen to have a perfect timing moment where Fred's walking by while I'm interviewing you. So, Fred, what would you like to ask?
I love the fact that there are brewers, and Schlafly is one of those where I can, because it's my anniversary weekend, I can, for my wife's anniversary and my anniversary, line up on one side of the tent the people that are my favorite people in the world. And I can start with Schlafly, and I can run all the way down. But the bottom line is that it doesn't stop at the end of that tent. It goes around to the other side of the tent. It circles to the 100 tent. But what Beth and I love is when we can actually spend a little bit more time, get behind the table, actually sit down with some actually cogent moments and have a conversation. That's what I love. When we can actually stop for 2 minutes and say, thank you for being here. We know that this isn't marketing for you, but it's an endeavor of beer, it's an endeavor of love, and that's what we really what we inspire, and we hope to be that.
I think that's the way, that was the cold open on our first episode, talking about how this is Christmas Day, and we're going to have some beers, we're going to have some conversations, we're going to really sit down and talk about the fun stuff. So tell us about what you brought to try today. What were you tapping? What sort of amazing beers do you bring for Great Taste?
The variant. Big complicated beer
Delicious.
aged in red wine barrels. Yeah, that's the one I started for the interview, but then I realized if I was going to be on video, I might want to drink a white lager and tout the attributes of the white lager, year-round, very drinkable. Cheers, white lager.
Cheers, guys.
Salute.
Yeah. And I'm drinking the pumpkin beer because Jesus could not be here today. He's the fourth member of our podcast. Every time we bring up Schlafly, Jesus has a massive erection. So, huge fan. And we subjected Andy, another member of the podcast, to the pumpkin episode, where we had the Schlafly pumpkin. It's one of my favorites.
Thank you.
It's a really good pumpkin beer. Andy, it was a subjection. We really put him to his faces.
Not a fan of pumpkin beers.
I agree with Andy to the degree of it may not have multiple pints of it, but it is a great beer for the season.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of mixing 20% pumpkin and 80% Schlafly oatmeal stout together. Brilliant combination. We did it out of desperation a few years ago at a festival, and it became the pumpkin stout in later years.
Awesome.
But I got to say, sorry, Fred mentioned something earlier. I got to jump in.
Yeah, jump in.
Cogent moments. Well done, Fred. Yes. So at 4:30, we're winding down on the
Last 20.
timetable of the festival. Hour and 20 to go, I think. Cogent moments are increasingly rare later at the Great Taste, but it's totally worth being here at any time. And we'll send a crew of 8 people up here, 360 miles for 2 nights in a place where we don't distribute beer because of the hashtag Lovefest.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what, that's one question that we've been asking everybody that we've interviewed today. What are some of your favorite moments from previous fests? What have been some of the moments that keep you coming back?
Skinny dipping in this lake after an early festival.
Totally.
No video, no cell phones back then.
There wasn't. My thing is that when you can actually bring people around and they're like, our big thing is that we come here because we see each other and it becomes a trade show. And Stephen says, I see people once a year and I see them here. And it's not that I see them in Missouri or it's not that I see them in Nebraska. I see people once a time. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make this a trade show for brewers. And we open up 2 hours beforehand, not in a ticketed event, but for the fact that people can walk around and just literally free pour each other's beer And the bottom line is, I can do that, you did that, and I can come back 2 hours later and say, you weren't here when I tried your beer, but let's have a conversation about that. How did you actually knock that out? So that's one of the things that I love, is that we've become a little bit of a trade show for brewers, and it's the one time a year that maybe they see each other. Not everybody throws beers at the GABF. Not everybody goes to every beer festival in their state, but people come here. And what we're trying to do for the first 2 hours is we're letting them have a little time to be with each other, spend a little time, have some sacrosanct moments, and then say, oh my God, how did that happen? Let's have a conversation. I love that part of it.
I can't say it any better, so I think I'm just going to wrap it up. That's,
I'll add. Can I add one more thing?
Please do.
Sorry,
Please do.
microphone, beer, people, all that. I don't think my wife would be very happy if I got in the car and drove 300 miles to Baumgartner's in Monroe to get a Limburger sandwich. Maybe there's one closer in St. Louis. I don't know about it, but it's on the way here. So I'll buy Fred a sandwich. I'll have one there with a Hams beer, and then we'll come up here and have a few more. Limburger. If you haven't tried it, people, you got to do it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for taking a little time in this busy, busy day to just take a moment to, reflect on this amazing festival. And thanks again to every single volunteer out there, the entire army of volunteers that you guys have put together. Every single person that we've talked to today has talked about what an easy experience that this has been for them as pourers. It's just incredible. It's really incredible what you guys have put together here.
Well, thanks. I mean, it takes an army of hundreds to be able to knock this out. And, our big thing is if the brewers put their beer on their truck when they leave their place, I don't want them to touch it until their kegs are empty and going home at 6 o'clock. So that's our big thing.
Awesome. Well,
And Fred looks great in a red dress.
Cheers, guys. Cheers,
Yeah.
guys. And
Cheers.
Yeah.
Salute, everybody.
It's been a solid
Thanks, you
non-fail
guys.
production, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.